everyone, let's discuss my latest soap fail. So, if you guys remember, about a week or so ago, I posted my June subscription box for the wax melts, and the theme was a barnyard theme, and the name of the box was Down at the Farm. So, I had posted this on all my social media. My good friend since grade school, my friend Nicole, she commented on TikTok and said, "Hey, can you make these in soap?" I immediately kind of cringed because I'm like, do I want to do this? And I said, well, I'm sure I could. And she said, well, if you do, I would buy one. And I thought about it and I was like, a lot of people really seem to like the barnyard theme. So maybe I should go ahead and make a barnyard soap theme box. Now, the most obvious and easiest way to make these soaps would have been to use melt and pour soap, but I really have been trying to get away from using melt and pour. One, I don't think it's as good quality. It's definitely not as good quality as cold processed soap. And the one reason I really dislike using it is because it is prone to sweating in humidity. Melt and pour soap contains glycerin. So if you just have a bar of melt and pour soap out on your counter that's unwrapped and you get a lot of humidity, that humidity is going to pull out all of that glycerin and it's going to form on the bar of soap. So your soap is going to look very wet, and if you touch it, it's very slippery. And I don't like it when the soap does that. So I've been trying to really not use melt and pour. So I told myself I was going to challenge myself and make all of these in cold processed soap. So looking at my molds that I was going to use, and trust me, there were a lot more than you see on my table. I will show you later on in this video. But I was looking at the molds, figuring out like to do batches at a time. What color should I do first? I decided to do black because all the animals had little black eyes, little black mouth. There were tires. So I wanted to do black. Now, in hindsight, I should have made this black batch of soap very liquid and used a dropper and just poured it into those tiny little and the little cavities of my molds. But no, I did not do that. I thought I was thinking correctly and I ended up letting it thicken on purpose. And then I thought I will just pipe them using a piping bag. This was mistake number one. So after my black batch of soap had thickened, I poured it into a piping bag and I cut off the tip to make a tiny little hole at the end. And I started piping the black soap into my molds. And at first, I was like, oh yeah, this is working perfectly. And then I got to those tractor tires and I was like, ugh, I should have used a dropper. And then I get my cow mold and I start painting or filling in the black spots all over the cows. And I saw how thick my batter was. And I realized I made a big mistake. I really should have used a dropper to fill in these parts of the mold. But let's move on. Next, I'm making a pink batch of soap scented in bubblegum, which does not matter at this point. I add my pink colorant, and I did learn my lesson from the black batch of soap that I had made. And while this was still liquid, I did use my dropper to make the pink mouths on the cows. And I also poured the pink directly into my mold for those pink pigs. And it was very fluid, and apparently I did not record that part of the video for some reason. But again, it doesn't matter. Next, I'm making a batch of white soap, and I needed this for several different elements of these soaps. I needed it for the sheep, I needed it for the cows, and I needed it for parts of the barn. I was trying to move very quickly because I know the white colorant makes your batter thicken very quickly. So I got my dropper and I'm trying to add those little intricate details on the barn. And after I did the one, it was already starting to thicken up on me, and I tried pouring them into my cow mold. And you'll be able to see by the bottom right here, I had to like kind of move my. You can see how thick that it was already getting. And I had many other molds that I had to do. And then I went back and I filled in the sheep with the white. And it was so thick, I used a spatula to kind of flatten it out on the top. The next batch was going to be a light gray, and this is going to be for the goat. So I'm adding just a little bit of black charcoal powder to make it just a little bit gray. And then I'm trying to pour this into my mold for the goat. And it seemed to work fine for about the first 3 molds, and then it got thick on me. And at that point, all you can do is kind of smush it into the mold. Next, I'm making a brown batch for the horse, and I do know that I used a fragrance called Weather Vane for this one. This is a brand new fragrance, and I was so excited about this fragrance because it smells so good. And I left it liquid, again, as liquid as I could, and I poured them into the molds and, hope for the best. Just keep in mind you are not seeing what's going on with all of those other molds. Next, I'm making up a batch of green soap, and this is going to be for that John Deere tractor. I already have the black tires filled in for this, and I'm just going to pour the green part into the molds. I don't remember what fragrance I used for this one, and again, it does not matter. Next, I'm making a blue batch of soap for that truck in the bottom left-hand corner of the mold. The last batch I had to make for this soap was the red for the red barn. And I did not use the white door on the other molds because my batter had just thickened up so quickly. So they're all going to have a white roof and just the red barn. And I had scented the barns in Hawaiian Sun. And when I said I had other molds on more tables, I had 16 of these molds that I had filled in. 16. So I let these soaps sit in my molds longer than I normally do. I just had a bad feeling about them for some reason. So the first thing I did was unmold the cows because I thought I would have the best luck with the cows. They weren't beautiful. They weren't terrible, but they weren't really very cute. Plus, I still needed to fill in the black eyes. For this mold, you have to do that after you unmold them, not before. So for these, I just unmolded the cows, and they definitely weren't perfect. And here's where it gets really ugly. Okay, I'm unmolding the red barn. It looks perfectly fine. Okay, it doesn't have that red X in the center for the door, but it's fine. The barn is the only thing that looked good. The barn was fine. Next is the tractor. The tractor's ugly. And the black tires all wobbly looking because the black part didn't fill in all the way. It just looks ugly. Next we have what am I doing here? The sheep. Oh, the goats. Oh yes, the lovely goats. My no-legged goats. The legs broke off of every single goat, I think, except for one. So I have legless goats. Next, we have the sheep. The sheep are hideous. Most of them weren't liquid when I poured them. I had to kind of smush them in, and they just look terrible. Those cute little bubblegum scented pigs lost their ears, either one or both. Every single one lost at least one ear, if not both. Those blue trucks, most of them unmolded okay, but they look ugly. And then we have the horse. Some of them turned out okay. Some of them look really bad. So let's unmold the rest of those 16 molds, shall we? The pigs all lost their ears. The goats, except for one, lost all of their legs. Some of the tractors fell apart. Some of the tires fell off. The sheep just looked terrible. The trucks looked terrible. You're going to see one of the trucks for some reason turned to a completely different shade of blue. I don't even know how that happened. They were all the exact same batch of soap. At first, I was making a good pile versus a bad pile, like the ones that maybe were salvageable. And there were just so many that were so ugly or broken or something happened to them. I ended up putting them all in the same batch. Now look at this one. Look at this one goat. It turned like this toxic green color. There was only one out of all the batches. They were all the exact same batch. One of them turned this toxic green color. It took me hours to pour these soaps, and they are completely ruined. Whenever I do share a soap fail, I always seem to get at least one comment from someone saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have shared it because, it makes me look like, I didn't know what I was doing or whatever." I am human and I make mistakes, and sometimes things just don't turn out the way you envision them. And sometimes that's how you learn. You learn from your mistakes. And then on the opposite side, I know there's going to be some of you who are going to say they're not that bad, or I'm too hard on myself, or they're salvageable. You could still sell them, or that you would still buy them. And I truly, truly appreciate you guys. But these are just, to me, these are just so horrible. I would just never put my name on them. They're so ugly. I will probably end up just shredding them into pieces and using them as confetti in another cold process soap. But I definitely won't be selling them. So instead of a down at the farm soapbox, it looks like I have created a down at the landfill soapbox. They look like they should have garbage and dumpsters sitting around them with raccoons going through all the garbage and empty bottles of patchouli laying around everywhere. I hope you found my soap fail entertaining, and I hope it made you laugh a little bit. And don't worry, I have a new soap that I also poured that I'm very excited about cutting and revealing to you guys over the next couple days, either Sunday or Monday. So I hope you all have a great night. Thank you so much for watching.